Welcome to the world of animal allies, the doctors, volunteers, pet owners and other surprising visitors who are out there making a difference. In South Africa, animal doctors come to the aid of a much-loved horse with a mystery eye infection. While in the United States, animal helper Robert Shapiro takes in homeless reptiles. Want a puppy as a best pal? This week's How-To reveals all. And in Animal World, the alpaca is a hit with English farmers. At the Cape Animal Medical Centre in South Africa, Dr. Gary Bauer is seeing his first patient of the day. But this poor old dog isn't seeing him, and that's the problem.
This is Munster. He's an 11-year-old Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Was diagnosed about 2 weeks ago as having visual impairment. Was starting to walk into tables and chairs and not really recognizing where he was anymore.
Munster has severe cataracts in both eyes. Cataracts are growths over the outside surface of the eye. In Munster's case, both eyes have become so clouded he can only just distinguish between light and dark. After a local anaesthetic to numb the dog's eyes, eye specialist Dr. Bauer uses an ultrasound to see whether his cataracts can be surgically removed. It's good news for Munster.
The retina is absolutely normal now, as we've ascertained by the electroretinograph as well as by the ultrasound. There's no signs of any detachment of the lens or shifting of the lens inside the eye. So he's a very good candidate for cataract surgery, which is fairly successful in dogs.
First, Dr. Bauer and his veterinary nurse put in what's called a shunt. It's a small opening through which they'll administer a drug to reduce the internal pressure in Munster's eyes during the operation. Cataract surgery is relatively minor, but because Dr. Bauer is dealing with the eyes, it requires absolute precision. With Munster safely anaesthetised, the surgical team set up a microscope that will guide Dr. Bauer through the delicate process. His eyes are first swabbed with an antiseptic solution to reduce the chance of infection. Then, after making a small incision on the side of the eye, Dr. Bauer inserts an ultrasonic probe. The high-frequency sound literally breaks up the cataract. At the same time, a vacuum tube in the centre of the probe sucks out the opaque material. Slowly but surely, it's all removed, and when Munster opens his eyes, he'll have a whole new outlook. There is also another of Dr. Bauer's patients having eye trouble. 8-year-old Persian cat Fella has a detached cornea in the left eye. It's caused a very painful complication, a corneal ulcer. And now it appears the same problem is developing in Fella's right eye.
We'll put a contact lens onto each eye, and that should assist the healing. And the plan is then that she'll come back in about 12 days' time. We'll take the contact lens off, and the cornea should be healed. There's no erosion. Okay, I'm just going to turn the main light off.
An ultraviolet light is used to determine the size and exact location of the ulcer. In Fella's case, it's fairly extensive. Persians are particularly prone to this type of problem. It's thought because of the breed's trademark bulging eyes. The procedure involves first peeling away the abnormal growth with a cotton bud. Then tiny incisions are scored across the surface of the cornea in a grid to encourage regrowth of the surface.
Done in a grid-like fashion, vertical and then perpendicular incision.
Finally, the protective contact lenses are attached.
And that's the contact lens there. Placed onto the eye. That's it.
Within 2 weeks, the much-loved Moggy's eye problems will be over. In Animal Doctors Part 2, Doc Bauer is called out to help save the sight of a promising show jumper.
Hidden in the concrete jungle of New York City, one of its natives has opened his doors to the city's homeless reptiles.
Rough, right?
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Rob.
Come on in.
How you doing?
Regular cat. Pop it right down here. We got the. Are all three of them together?
Yeah.
Are they bagged separately, or they're just
No,
in here?
they're all together.
How about the
Show 'em
iguana?
all. The iguana is separate.
Okay,
Back
so
on the
let me
side.
just. I can look at these for a second.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robert Shapiro has dedicated more than 10 years of his life to saving New York's abandoned animals, keeping up to 500 at the back of his t-shirt store.
It's ready to shed.
Yeah, they all need to be soaked, which is
Yeah,
fine. They weren't kept together, were they?
Like two Burmese were, yeah.
Okay. This boa though is very unusually marked, which is kind of nice. You need this tub back, right?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to put this in the hot room. It's much warmer. Just push it.
The cramped confines of Robert's East Village shop have become well known as a haven for unwanted reptiles.
I have to do everything by the book, so I have to call the Board of Health the minute an animal comes in. I have to report once a week, tell them what went in, what's going out. It's just very important that I don't break any laws, or else I'm not going to be able to rescue animals that need to be shipped out of the city. And even though I do it at my expense, I need to have permission to do it, or else all these animals are going to die. We do thousands of animals a year, so it's very important that I do everything by the book. From Texas, a harmless constrictor. They get very big. They get about 8 or 9 feet. Oh, look at that. This is the real thing. It's the genuine article.
This alligator was found dumped in the bathtub of an inner-city apartment.
Do you hear that noise? Did you hear that? That's what the babies, that's the sound babies make, talk to their mother, to call their mother.
Yeah.
According to Robert, reptiles are fast becoming the pet of choice for many Americans, but some are illegal.
This is an ornate Nile monitor, and the ornate ones are a subspecies, and they're generally tamer. This is a baby. This gets huge. Doesn't get as big as that little baby alligator will get, but these are animals that are completely not allowed to be owned in New York City, and is going to go to a refuge today, and hopefully live to a ripe old age of 40 years. He's a beautiful boy. He was kept totally improperly when he was younger. He's got cataracts, which means he had terrible respiratory infections when he was younger. He's completely blind. That's why he's so nice, I guess. He's very, very gentle. Almost get documented. It's just this. I don't want to frighten her. She's beautiful.
One of the latest arrivals in Robert's world is an iguana.
Gloves.
Why do you need the gloves?
Well, iguanas that are nervous can bite you, and they generally will bite you if they're really nervous, but the nails, this is my wrists, the nails are, because they're arboreal, they're really meant for climbing. So even if a tame one holds you, it'll cut you unless you clip their nails. And this is a young one, and young one's nails are even sharper than the older ones. I will show you something now. If you restrain them, they get terrified. If you don't grab them, I'm seeing my hands wide open, and you just hold them above your head. This is what they seek out in nature. They want to be above your head. They want to run away from you by being in a tree. So I'm not even.
Statistics show around 90% of the millions of reptiles bought each year die prematurely.
It's a very tame animal.
In many cases, owners are killing their pets with kindness.
The reason reptiles don't need a lot of interaction with humans is because they're reptiles. They're not gregarious creatures. They're not raised by their mothers. For the most part, they live their entire lives alone, and adults will occasionally seek out a mate. But other than that, even animals that are seen together in big populations like iguanas are just all vying for the best spot to bask in. This is an albino ball python. It's a very popular pet, ball pythons, but there's not a lot of albinos. They don't have a lot of babies, so this is a very sought-after pet in the reptile world. Ball pythons are so shy, they spend most of their lives in complete darkness. When they're afraid, they won't eat, so they slowly starve to death. And all they have to do is be kept in a warm, slightly humid environment. This doesn't look like nature, but this comes closer to simulating nature than a beautiful tank that looks like Africa where they come from. And that's, again, it's people out of their kindness are killing their animals, trying to give them what they think they need rather than what the animal actually needs.
The animals rescued and rehabilitated in this halfway home don't stay here. Most are sent to new homes where they'll be well cared for.
Grab the paper. Look at this thing. It's like a teddy bear. And I just fed him. Isn't he great? You could hold him like a, he's that tame. Deserves a good home, yeah. A large percentage of the time, animals come in need of medical attention. That's why we have this nursery. It's a heated room. For the snakes, they're in a nice, tight, dark environment. No lights, no screen covers to hurt themselves. They're fed dead food. If they're really sick, we have access to medication for them. And unless an animal is on its last legs, no joke intended, we can generally turn them around. And once they're rehabilitated, we ship them all over the country to people who are experts in those specific species. So that's a happy ending.
After the break, Animal Allies looks at how to care for your new best friend. And will Doc Bauer be able to save Tonto's sight? The first few months of a puppy's life are the most critical for its health and development. Animal Allies Guide to Looking After Puppies. Pet shop owner Ken Nelligan is an expert on how to keep your new best friend happy and healthy. Ken suggests feeding your puppy a premium dry food mixed with a little soft food twice a day.
And the soft food is a meat roll with a small amount of cooked white rice and the dry food, and we mix it all together so that they'll eat all of it. When we feed them, you should always have water next to their food in case they do swallow it down the wrong way.
Puppies need to be vaccinated and wormed at an early age to prevent you and your puppy becoming sick.
The idea of worming a puppy for intestinal worms officially should start at 2 weeks of age. The basic worms are hookworm, whipworm, tapeworm, but there is 11 intestinal worms that can be in a puppy's intestinal system. If you don't worm a puppy, the chances of transmitting that to your children or to yourselves is at higher risk. Sometimes a puppy or kitten won't take its worming tablet. The best way to get the worming tablet into the dog system or the cat system, break it into small pieces, put it inside their favourite food, and within seconds it's digested easily.
Although puppies appear to have boundless energy to play, regular sleeps are a must.
We forget that the puppy is like a newborn baby. They sleep approximately 80% of a day, a young puppy. So if they are overextended in play and exertion, they're not having their normal sleep requirements, and it can lead to distress, and then, if it happens regularly, fall ill from not having its normal required sleeping pattern.
In the first 4 months of the puppy's life, it's best to limit its social outings.
The most problems that people do when they take a new puppy home is that they take it to public areas. We recommend that when they get a new puppy, until it's fully vaccinated at 16 weeks of age, they should keep the puppy in their home environment and their backyard up until then. The reason why we don't take them into public areas is that they are still getting inoculated for dog diseases. They are great friends. They will always love you, and I dare anybody to tell me another creature in the world that will give unconditional love forever. That's what a dog gives you.
So before you take your new pooch home, check out this week's Animal Allies How-To. Feed a premium food mix twice a day. Worm your puppy from an early age. Puppies need more sleep than play. And keep them away from public areas.
Once regarded as an oddity, the alpaca is becoming a common sight in the English countryside. The animal's fine fleece and hardy nature make them a favourite with farmers. But the alpaca doesn't come cheap. They cost thousands of pounds to buy. That's why vet Philip Lermette has been called out to ensure these alpacas are in good health. The owner, Yolanda Noble, has invested a lot of time and money building up the herd.
We originally bought 6 alpacas, all of which were pregnant. The gestation's 13 months, 11 to 13 months for an alpaca. So 11 months down the line, all our babies were born, and we've built the herd up from there.
Some of these alpacas have microchips embedded under their skin. Microchipping is a way to identify them and keep track of their numbers.
You can actually microchip almost anything. They're used in everything from tortoises and iguanas, snakes,
birds of prey, dogs, cats, horses.
Over at the same time.
Because they're very small and they're very inert, they just sit under the skin and don't cause any problems. 981 70 68 618. To get rid of them, you need to surgically remove them, so they're a bit more difficult to get rid of than something like a tattoo, which can be physically altered.
Very strong little tiny.
Where are you off to?
The alpaca comes from the same family as the camel and is used to surviving in tough conditions. But how does the alpaca, thousands of miles away from its natural home in South America, adapt to the much colder British climate?
In the high plateaus, the Andes where they live, the temperature can go from sub-zero up to extreme heat during 24 hours, so they're quite capable of looking after themselves.
Max!
Just check you there. 981 70 71394. You don't need any special fencing or anything to keep them, you know, they're fairly easy to keep.
They make absolutely excellent pets. They really do. And they're very unusual to see in the UK. They're very protective, don't like foxes, very protective over their babies. So if they see a fox or something strange in the field, the whole herd will gather together and chase them off. They won't tolerate anything strange in the field with them. But if you sit down amongst them, only a couple of minutes and they're all around you, pushing you and wanting to know what you're up to. They're expensive to buy. The females range from around about £6,000 to £10,000 depending on the colour and the age. The males, a good stud male, anything upwards of sort of £20,000. The geldings, which are what are sold mainly for pets, around about £800 to buy a gelding. And you've got to have two, you can't keep one alone. We found them for the fleece. It's a luxury item, but very much like cashmere.
Yolanda believes it's only a matter of time before the alpaca becomes as much a part of the British countryside as sheep and cows.
It's a busy day for veterinary ophthalmologist Dr. Gary Bauer. After a full morning in surgery restoring the sight of Munster and treating Fella's painful eye ulcer, he's been called out to a horse stud. The patient is a 5-year-old mare with a seriously injured eye. Tonto, as she's affectionately known, is the Moore family's favourite.
Our ponies are our life, really. I mean, we've got a couple, and she's got such a nice nature. She's really a sweetie pie. I mean, my son can lead her all over the place, and he's only 5. She's very special.
Tonto's injured eye has previously been treated, but the symptoms have persisted.
3.5 weeks ago, she came with this sore eye, and the vet came, and we put drops in, and it just got worse and worse, and then eventually it looked like the ulcer had ruptured. I've been having sleepless nights about her losing her eye. And the children have also been quite upset about her eye and that, and we've been treating it, and it hasn't got better. I mean, the vet has been here 4 times, and he suggested the last time he came that we get the eye specialist.
Yeah, the family vet briefs Dr. Bauer on Tonto's case, and the pair quickly decides on a course of action.
What we'll do is we'll sedate him and then put a couple of nerve blocks in, so we don't put any pressure on the eye while we're examining and looking at it, and then we'll have a good one. Do you have any power in there, or can we get an extension cord into there? Excellent, that will be brilliant. Okay.
Tonto is moved into the stable, away from the harsh, irritating sun. To examine the eye, Dr. Bauer has to numb the nerves by injecting a sedative around Tonto's eye.
The fact that it's continued to water such a lot.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried it might be ruptured. Okay, these are just 2 nerve blocks that we use to block out the sensitivity and the mobility of the eyelids. So when we do get around to working on it, we don't really have to put a lot of pressure on to open them and stuff. So just give that a minute or 2 to work.
He examines the eye with a biomicroscope.
Okay, he's had something which has put a little infection of bacteria into the cornea. That's where that round little lesion is. Yeah. The danger that we have now is that small little area can rupture. So there's one of of two ways that we can treat it. One is to carry on with exactly how you do now, except I'd maybe step up the atropine a little bit more than what we are giving it. The other option is to go in surgically and put a graft onto there, which will immediately seal it. The disadvantage is that it requires a full anesthetic, and that the scarring afterwards is slightly more than if we let it heal up by itself.
Linda Moore is prepared for the family's precious pet to undergo surgery. She's always dreamed the mare would one day compete in show jumping with her children.
Look, she's still young, so she probably would get over the and get used to one eye, but she would never be a top-class show jumper if she lost the one eye. And I just think we would probably have to retire her and breed from her.
It hasn't ruptured yet, and it's not about to rupture within the next couple of hours, so it's not one of those where you have to do a graft. So the decision is entirely up to yours. Probably what I would do, if we can keep sort of inside a stable, out of direct sunlight, and keep up with the intensity of the drops, is perhaps do that and then check it again fairly regularly. And once it opens completely, you'll get quite a big relaxation of the iris muscle, and then the eye will be more comfortable.
Linda follows Dr. Bauer's advice and decides against surgery. For now, Tonto is to be kept inside with plenty of rest. It will give the family a chance to spoil him some more, and Tonto is more than happy with his new stable environment.
In the next programme, the world of animal allies continues when the dog's nose goes on the hunt for cancer. And Doc Newlove treats a rabbit's troublesome teeth.
There are ways to make